NASA found amazing rocks on Mars, but can it bring them home? NASA's rover on Mars just found a rock with leopard spots, and scientists think those spots might be signs of ancient alien life. But here's the problem. The mission to bring that rock back to Earth is falling apart, and China might beat NASA to it. Today we're looking at the biggest rock heist in history, what Perseverance found, why getting those samples home is so hard, and who's going to win the race to bring them back. It's NASA's Perseverance rover, and in July 2024, it found something extraordinary, a rock called Chayava Falls, unlike anything seen before on Mars. Instead of the usual crystals or layered sediment, this rock had spots, a leopard print pattern running through the stone. To a geologist, spots like these are deeply exciting. On Earth, this kind of pattern in rock is often left behind by microbes, microscopic living things that fed on chemicals in the rock for energy, leaving behind tiny chemical leftovers as they went. It's like finding an ancient alien kitchen, complete with the remains of a meal eaten billions of years ago. That doesn't prove life existed on Mars. Chemical reactions involving iron and phosphate can also create these patterns without any help from living things, but it's still one of the most tantalizing clues ever found. But there's a problem. Perseverance can collect the rocks, but it can't bring them back to Earth, and the mission that was supposed to retrieve them is in serious trouble. Why do Mars rocks matter so much? Mars wasn't always the cold, dry desert it is today. Billions of years ago, it had rivers, lakes, and possibly even oceans. Scientists believe that if life ever existed on Mars, it would have lived in those ancient waters, and the evidence would be locked inside rocks formed at that time. Studying a Mars rock in a laboratory on Earth, with all our best equipment, would be completely different from studying it from millions of kilometers away with a rover. We could look for microscopic fossils. We could analyze the chemistry in extraordinary detail. We could finally answer one of humanity's oldest questions. Are we alone in the universe? That's why scientists have called Mars sample return one of the most important missions in the history of space exploration. The space heist that wasn't. The plan was ambitious, almost like a heist movie. Step 1. Perseverance collects the best rock samples and seals them in titanium sample tubes. Step 2. A new spacecraft lands on Mars, collects those tubes, and launches them off the Martian surface. This small rocket, only a few meters tall, would have to ignite automatically, alone, in the middle of an alien wilderness, with no engineer nearby to fix anything if something went wrong. If it works, it will be the first rocket ever launched from another planet in history. Step 3. An orbiting spacecraft catches the tubes in space. Step 4. The samples are brought back to Earth. It was brilliant. It was daring. Scientists around the world spent decades preparing for it, and then it hit a wall. The original Mars sample return plan turned out to be extraordinarily expensive, far more than anyone had budgeted. In 2026, Congress refused to fund the original $11 billion design. But rather than giving up entirely, NASA is now doing something difficult but important, taking the whole plan apart and trying to rebuild it in a smarter, cheaper way. Think of it like this. Imagine you designed the most amazing Lego castle ever, but it cost 10 times more than you could afford. You wouldn't throw away all the pieces. You'd take it apart, figure out which parts you really need, and find a more clever way to build it again. That's where Mars sample return stands today. Scientists are racing to redesign it before those precious rocks wait too much longer in their titanium tubes. We've spent 50 years preparing to get these samples back, said one planetary scientist. We're ready to do that. And then China stepped in. Here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. While NASA's Mars sample return mission struggles, China is quietly building its own plan to bring back Martian samples, potentially before the United States. China has already shown it can do this kind of mission. In 2020, its Chang'e 5 mission successfully collected rocks from the moon and brought them back to Earth. In 2021, its Tianwen-1 spacecraft landed a rover on Mars on its very first attempt, something that had taken other countries multiple tries. Now, China is planning a mission called Tianwen-3, targeting launch around 2028. Unlike NASA's multi-step relay plan, China's approach may be more direct and streamlined, sending fewer spacecraft to do the same job in a simpler way. This isn't just a race to see who finishes first. It's also a test of which approach, ambitious and complex or lean and efficient, actually works better. If China succeeds first, it would represent one of the most significant shifts in space exploration in decades. For 50 years, the United States has led Mars exploration. That leadership could be about to change. Is this a bad thing? It's complicated. On one hand, competition in space has historically led to faster progress. The original space race between the US and Soviet Union in the 1960s pushed both countries to achieve things that seemed impossible. If China's ambition pushes NASA to find its funding, the world might end up with Mars samples sooner than if there were no competition at all. On the other hand, some scientists worry about what happens to international cooperation. Shared discoveries benefit everyone. Secrets don't. There is also a hopeful angle. Some scientists from both countries have spoken respectfully about each other's work. One Chinese scientist said that NASA had so well prepared for Mars sample return that Chinese researchers had learned so much from NASA's scientific community. Science has a way of crossing borders that politics sometimes can't. What happens to Perseverance? The Perseverance rover continues its work. It drives, it drills, it collects. It takes photographs of an alien landscape that no human has ever seen in person. The samples sit sealed in their titanium tubes, waiting. Whether it's NASA, China, or perhaps a future collaboration between countries that retrieves them, one thing is certain. Those rocks from Mars are the most valuable objects in the solar system that no human has ever touched, and whoever brings them home will make history. If the NASA and China spacecraft both arrived at Mars at the same time, do you think they should race each other or work together? Leave your answer in the comments.